In this video, we look at two macros to help you manage very large Excel workbooks containing lots of sheets. Firstly, the sheet index macro instantly generates a new worksheet listing all the worksheets as hyperlinks. So you can then instantly jump to any worksheet you want by just clicking on the link. The second macro complements the sheet index macro and lets you return instantly to the index sheet from any sheet and then back to the same sheet again. We know how tricky and time consuming it is to update Excel spreadsheets that contain lots and lots of sheets. In this example, we have a workbook with 50 sheets named after all the states in the USA, and we need to add some comments on each tab in no particular order. In this case, the sheets are neatly arranged in alphabetical order. But even so, if we have to repeatedly switch back and forth between the sheets to update them in no particular order, it's going to take a lot of time and effort. So we can use the sheet index macro to generate a list of all the tabs with hyperlinks to make finding them much quicker and easier. And if we want to add an index of all the sheets at the front, so we can add notes on our progress as we go through and update all the tabs. It's going to take time and effort to go through and type them out one by one. So the sheet index macro takes care of this with the push of a button. Once you've copied the macro code from my website and saved it to your Excel, you can then add the macro buttons to your quick access toolbar. To do this, just right click on the QAT and select Customize Quick Access Toolbar. On the Choose Command list, select Macros and then select Sheet Index Macro from the list. Then click the Add button to add it to your QAT list. Then click Modify and select an icon for the button and rename the display name to Sheet Index. You then click OK and you can see that the changes have updated in the QAT list. So click OK again to accept the changes, and you can see that the Sheet Index button has now popped up on the QAT. Now let's click the macro button and you can see how a new sheet is produced on the left hand side, listing all of the worksheet tabs as hyperlinks. You can then rename the sheet to Index if you like. Now let's say we want to work on the Texas worksheet. We can just click on the link and it takes us to Texas instantly. You'll see how once we've finished working on Texas, it's still going to take a long time to manually click back through to the index. So we can add a comment on progress and then select the next sheet. So that's where it's really helpful to add the Goto Index macro button to take us directly back to the index worksheet. So to add the Goto macro button to the QAT, again we right click and select Customize Quick Access Toolbar, and on the Choose Commands from list, select Macros, then select the Goto Index macro from the list. Click Add to add it to the QAT list, then modify to select an icon and rename the display name to Goto Index. Then we click OK to accept the changes, and we can see that the Goto Index button has now been added to the QAT. And clicking on the Goto Index macro button takes us directly back to the Index tab. Now let's click on the link to take us to the New York tab. From here, we now just have to click on the Goto Index button to return to the Index tab. One of the features of the Goto Index macro button is that it will always take you to the tab named Index, no matter where it is in the workbook. But if you don't rename the new Sheet Index tab to Index, then the Goto Index macro button will continue to take you back to the first sheet on the left of all the tabs by default. So in this case, we've moved the sheet index along a few sheets, and after adding some comments to Texas, we click the Goto Index tab and it takes us back to the Index tab in its new position. Whereas if we hadn't renamed the tab to Index, it would by default go back to the first tab in the workbook on the very left of all the tabs. If you'd like to learn how to install macros on your Excel, please consider buying my book on Amazon, Making the Most of the Quick Access Toolbar in Excel, where I give you step-by-step directions on how to enable macros and install the code, which is provided for free on my website through the link in the description. Thanks very much for watching, and please do subscribe to my channel for more videos.